Okay.
And the microphone's on? All right. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Tuesday, July 21st, 2020. We'll call our council meeting to order. It's just after 1 o'clock. I would like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis people. Some of our members are still attending remotely as they practice COVID precautions, so thanks to Raymond and our admin staff for setting up the go-to-meeting format for each council meeting. I'd like to introduce the two council members and have them give us a wave. Councillor Randall and Councillor Axworthy. Thank you. And around the table, starting with Mike.
Mike Bartmanovich.
Erwin Kumka.
Raymond Morrows, Yale.
And Penny McMorris Reed. Thanks, everybody. So we have an adoption of the agenda up next. Just let me get to my resolutions. Be it resolved that the agenda be adopted with the following additions. No parking signage on PTH 59 north of David Road. And the Coalition to Save Lake Winnipeg Council Representative. Is there anything else any member of council wishes to add to the agenda?
Can we have a brief discussion about the library money?
Library, like a grant, the grant?
It's been approved, but there's some circumstances that I'd like to just bring to council's attention.
Okay. We can add that. So, with that addition, can I have a mover and a seconder? Erwin moving, Mike seconding. Thank you. Sorry, guys. Any?
Sorry, what was the?
The library funding. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Move on to the minutes of the July 7th, 2020 regular meeting of council that have been circulated to all members of council. Be it resolved, the minutes of the July 7th, 2020 regular council meeting be adopted as presented. May I have a mover? I'll look to the board. Steve, thank you. Graham, seconds. And discussion? Any discussion on the minutes? No? All right, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. All right, moving on to committee reports. We don't have any delegations, so we'll start with Public Works.
Okay, thanks, Penny. Not a huge report this week. As most people will know who've been following the Facebook page, the brush clearing is now complete. They finished last Friday. It would have been Thursday, but they had some problems. But last Friday they did manage to complete. A reminder to everybody now that no brush piles are allowed on a roadway until the next brushing season begins, which is September 14th. So if you have put brush or brush piles on the roadway in front of your property, you're going to have to pull them back.
Same with you, Steve.
You'll have to pull the brush piles back, or arrange to have them removed.
Right. Are we having some, oh, you're gonna retry?
He's gone.
Sorry, he's coming back.
Okay.
I think, oh dear.
Let me hang on a second. I'll kill my
Technical difficulties.
disconnect. Okay, I'm doing my part.
Yeah.
Are you back, Graham? Okay. Waiting for Steve to come back.
I can see you. Looks like we're having a bandwidth issue. Okay.
Here comes Steve. All right, so do you want to carry on in the meantime, Mike, with your Public Works report?
And as I was saying, the brushing is now complete. Telling people brush piles have to be taken off the roadways now until September 14th, when the next brush collection season begins. And fast on the heels of the brushing contractor, the mower is now out in full force, and the Public Works are mowing the boulevards that are now accessible now that the piles are gone.
That makes sense.
And that's really the highlights for Public Works this time around.
Okay, thank you very much.
Quick question.
Yes.
I noticed yesterday that we were mowing north of Safi Road on the highway. Our mower was out there cutting grass. Isn't that the responsibility of the province?
Sometimes the province asks us to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
And now that Brian's back.
Yeah.
you know,
It was Brian.
It was?
Yeah. Yeah.
Looks good.
I can go see him take another swath down into the ditch. Maybe they will yet, but
Maybe.
we'll see.
Yeah, he did one swath on each side.
Okay. Any other questions for Mike? Okay. Thanks, Mike. Finance, Erwin?
Each of you have a copy of my report, and I'm pleased to report that the finances are getting back into shape. Our reserves at the end of June were $33,297 higher than last year, and the total reserves in place now are $650,000. Accounts receivable and miscellaneous assets at the end of June stood at $3,534,000, and that is up from last year's number of $3,340,000, or an overall increase of $194,000, which was positive. Cash is down to $379,000 over last year's amount of $584,000, but it is worth noting that our cash position has increased by $184,000 just in the last month. Last year we had been able to get our tax bills out earlier than this year, but we're catching up quickly. Operating surplus to date is $29,481 higher than last year. And if we combine our reserves, cash, and receivables, we're $22,608 higher than we were last year. Tangible capital assets are up by $252,000 over last year. Again, that's reflective on the fact that we did purchase some new equipment. So it's great to see people paying their taxes in a timely manner, and actually paying ahead of time is much appreciated, and that helps our cash flow considerably. So thanks to our taxpayers. And a reminder that taxes are due and payable before the end of July.
Taxes and utility bills.
And utility.
By the end of July.
Right, sorry, the water bill.
No later than July 31st.
Otherwise, a penalty.
Yes, you incur interest.
Great. Any questions for Erwin? Okay. All right, thanks very much.
Oh, Graham had his hand.
Sorry, Graham.
Yeah, just a brief question. Thank you very much for your report, Owen. Cutting stick and penalties if you don't pay. When you had floated the idea last year, maybe some sort of an incentive for people to pay their taxes early. Is that still being considered?
Not for this year.
One of the challenges that we would have, for example, in my municipality, which is St. Andrews, taxes are not due till the end of October, but if you pay them by the end of July, they give you a 2% discount. I think it'd be difficult to meet any kind of deadline far enough in advance to make it worthwhile, because we have to get the budget passed in the spring, and I don't think it's physically possible to get those bills out early enough to offer any kind of an incentive.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Okay.
It's a good idea, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to protective services. Steve, do you have a fire report or anything?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first, I guess. There was a total of 7 calls in the month of June. 5 of the calls were in the RM of Alexander. All the calls were of a fire nature. One call was to help move a patient into an ambulance. The structure was not built to house more than one person, and they were unable to walk. One of the calls was to a grass fire that became a forest fire in less than 20 minutes. This fire was under control quickly with the arrival of conservation crews and water bombers. Just to remind everybody, the conditions right now are extremely dry for the 3rd straight year in a row. And even though many people might think that Winnipeg is getting quite a bit of rain, that doesn't necessarily translate to Victoria Beach, and we haven't seen that much rain in the RM. The third call was for a fire alarm sounding, but there was no fire. Our last two calls both had casualties. One was by a tree. They were cutting, and that tree that they were cutting fell on them. Just a reminder never to turn your back on a tree that you're cutting. I know that I've had a couple calls before when a tree randomly just decides to jump. Always be careful wearing a hard hat and everything else. There were also two calls in the RM of Victoria Beach. One was a tree that was touching a hydro line and burning. We made that, they made that area safe and handed this off to Hydro on their arrival. The other call was for a smoke smell in a residence. They checked and cleared the residence, but there was no fire or heat source that could be found. And the fire department would like to ask people to keep an eye on their stoves and ensure that working properly. PPE should be here in the next week or so, and they're encouraged to try to start up their ambulatory jobs. They also continue to maintain their equipment and gear and train on some of our newer equipment as the opportunity arrives. They've had two opportunities recently to use the CAF system. They're finding that it'll be one of the most valuable pieces of firefighting equipment that they have on hand. Just a reminder to everybody that the CAF equipment is something that the RM invested in this last year. It's a compressed air foam system, so the idea is that it immediately kills the fire by flooding it with foam and is much more efficient than using standard firefighting methods. And one final reminder again, it's extremely dry out there. If you can, do everything you can to avoid any sort of sparks or hot plates or anything that might even cause a fire, because right now the conditions are really not good if something gets out of control.
Great. Any questions? Erwin?
Steve, I learned a couple days ago that possibly we don't have first responders because of lack of personal protection equipment. Any updates on that?
As I mentioned, the PPE should be here in the next couple of weeks. It's just as most people know, the PPE for the globe has really gone needed up by everyone. There's massive demand, and that created a really large shortage. So it's not that the firefighters or the RM haven't been able to access it. The thing is that the PPE that they need is very specific. So unlike, say, even myself, for example, I was able to go out and get a standard respirator that I would use for construction installation, and that's what I use when I go out to keep myself safe from COVID. That's still not of the level that the firefighters need. So the PPE that they need to do their job effectively should be here within the next couple of weeks.
That's also to do with the first responders though as well, right? Not just the, it's the first responders that haven't been attending.
Right.
And we need to also remember, if they can't access the personal protective equipment, this is their volunteer job, not their full-time job. So they aren't comfortable going to attend someone without the right equipment, because if they catch COVID, not only are we down emergency responders, they're out of work.
It's my understanding
Right.
that the province is providing the personal protective equipment.
I don't know.
That's,
I haven't heard anything about that.
so do we?
I do know though that their standards for their PPE are different, and again, where you might consider something to be more than safe for somebody in that situation, they have requirements that they need for their PPE. So everything that they need to do their job will be here in the next couple of weeks, and then they'll be able to start on everything.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Good question, Erwin. Police.
Thanks, Meg. Well, how to put this? It's been a fascinating year for the police force. Last year, there was one arrest in this RM in total. So far this year, due to the vigilance of and unfortunately the opportunity to make arrests. The police in Victoria Beach have made 11 arrests so far this year, and these arrests were due to everything from DUIs to finding people who are wanted under Manitoba and Canada-wide warrants, and a variety of other infractions. One of the arrests actually resulted in the recovery of a stolen ATV. And also commensurate with all of these arrests, they've written about $8,000 in tags so far. And to date, they've still been pretty good with the warnings, but the warnings are stopping for things like traffic, taking your ATV onto the AB to VB trail out of season. Folks, please, we worked too hard for this ATV bylaw. Don't violate the rules. You can't be on the roadbed on the causeway between May long weekend and Thanksgiving. Please stay off. Thank you. COVID is still very high in the minds of police. They strongly suggest anyone arriving to Victoria Beach from outside of the allowed travel area to please report to the police. And they also ask residents, if you believe that someone has come to Victoria Beach from outside of Western Canada to the edge of Northwest Ontario and are not self-isolating, self-quarantining, the police want you to call them. Chief Clark put a very good post on the Victoria Beach Police Service Facebook page. I've shared it on the RM of Victoria Beach Facebook page, and they are sincere and they are serious about ensuring that everything is being done to keep the COVID curve flat. Okay. And that's it for police.
Any questions?
Just one comment that I just wanted to make. It's just a reminder, because a lot of people think that, well, you don't want to bother the police in the middle of the night. This is related to COVID, but then also related to really anything to do with the police, including especially fireworks right now. Call them any time of day, 24/7. It doesn't matter whether it's not in the summer or the winter. There have been instances where they've been notified 48 hours after. And it's happened. Just phone them whenever you need to.
Yeah, I have it on authority. Gary does not sleep.
No, he doesn't. No. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
I have nothing for special events. That's been curtailed. Golf course, back to you, Mike.
I think the big news, I will defer to Graham in his buildings report. But just to say that the course is in great shape. It's being well attended. It's certainly beating the heck out of me whenever I challenge it.
Darn.
And good news, the washrooms have been fixed.
Oh, I didn't realize the washrooms were not working.
Evidently they were having significant problems with them, but Carl and his band of helpful henchmen have, and a call to a reasonable plumber, have resolved the issues.
Kind of critical.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for golf? I was there today to pick up some funds, and Carl says it's been a great year so far. Municipal buildings, Graham. Better hit the mute button. There we go.
Yeah, here I go. Municipal buildings. I've submitted a detailed report to council and copy to each of you. A few days ago, I haven't had any comments or questions back. I'll just run through it briefly. Item by item, so the order's been placed for an accessibility electric door opener, and we're coordinating this with the electrician for the required circuit. The VB Bakery, we have replaced the main air conditioner with a new Carrier 2-ton unit, and shop repairs and relocation at the back of the older unit is pending, and Raymond, you and I spoke about that earlier, so that'll be proceeded with as soon as possible. As far as the Sandy Bay steps, as we all know, the order's been placed to proceed as soon as possible with repairs, and accessibility is to be considered with the improved handrails. We know that these renovations are interim renovations, and we're beginning to take a harder look at complete replacement of them altogether in the foreseeable future. But that'll be a bigger issue for council discussion. The golf course clubhouse, which Mike alluded to, the renovations are almost complete. The ceilings, we worked on a bit of a compromise deal that's better for everybody. The ceilings will be done soon. The electrical work is being deferred to September so it doesn't interfere with operations. On the doctor's office, which I'll invite Erwin's to speak to when we get to his committee report. He and I were there and did some stuff that we hope will be of benefit. Thanks very much to Erwin and his draftsman friend, Mr. Ed Gissing. My final word on the doctor's office, it's suggested, and it's kind of a no-brainer that we should get the spider paint sprayed people who do our gate office and perhaps other municipal buildings I'm not aware of. Really should be done on the doctor's office. It's turning into an unsightly mess, and it's going to be that much worse next spring. So we'll the request is there for Redmond to deal with that. And that's about it for municipal buildings for this meeting. Thank you.
Can I just ask what they were talking about in terms of additions to enlarge the bedrooms and the waiting rooms at the doctor's office? Are we talking?
Perhaps I can respond to that.
Sure.
Yes, this comes from the doctor's committee. There has been a suggestion that the bedrooms and the waiting rooms need to be enlarged. Erwin and I generally concur with that, but that's a bigger issue that council will have to decide upon as a whole. One thing that of more immediate interest, though, is that the one reason why our doctor declined this year is that building is really not sanitizable to any known standards. So there needs to be some work done in the clinic room and the waiting rooms so that it is properly sanitizable and cleanable. And I think it's incumbent upon us to address that. The enlarging the size of some of the rooms, that's a separate issue.
Yeah. Erwin, did you want to speak to that, or?
Thank you, Graham, for making my report.
Come on, I saved some good stuff for you.
Yeah.
Two things. One, after the doctors indicated that they would not be able to function this summer, I sent a note off to the government Department of Health asking if there are going to be any new guidelines put in place with respect to the operation of any medical clinic. To date, I received acknowledgement that they are working on it, but I do not have any response. Graham and I had looked into the possibility of engaging a local contractor to do some drawings for us because we have no detailed drawings of the floor plan, which would be necessary if we want to contemplate any kind of changes in future. But a good friend of mine has volunteered to help out, and we spent a couple hours there on Saturday, I believe it was, and eventually we'll get some floor plan drawings. As far as the bedrooms are concerned, the doctors committee have indicated that some of the doctors feel that the cottage bedrooms are quite small, and they are. But again, before we're going to do anything, we need to get some hard answers from the province. There's no sense us speculating on what the new guidelines might be. I think it's likely very obvious that we'll have to enlarge the size of our waiting room because I think in future you're going to see medical clinics operating, where physical distancing will become a standard practice, not just COVID. So we hope to have that response from the government soon, but needless to say, Department of Health has been probably busy on some other things. So we'll hope, but before we would go forward, obviously we would need to get some indication as to what would be appropriate, and obviously look at some costing. Just one final comment on the idea of spraying the cottage. I mean, it's covered in cobwebs now. It's pretty disgusting, and personally, I've found the Sunset spray system to work very well, and I would like to suggest that we engage Sunset to get the cottage. What they do is they'll spray it down and remove all the cobwebs, and then they spray it again, and it keeps the building in pretty nice shape. So I hope we could, probably at a cost of about $300 per year, Graham, roughly.
Slightly less than $300, and Raymond knows this in terms of the gate office in Plastow, that there's a 2-3 year contract option available. So what we're dealing with now is that you and I strongly recommend that Raymond proceed with that. Another remark on your report, or if I could interject, it should be mentioned that the preparation of a scale floor plan of the doctor's cottage is, you in particular, found a way to get that done at no charge. It's pretty hard to talk to anybody about that building without having some kind of a floor plan to refer to, so thank you for that.
In terms of enlarging the bedrooms, they are small. I have been in the cottage, but so are many other cottage bedrooms. The doctors come for 1 week or 2 weeks in the summer.
It's a cottage.
It's a cottage, it's old, it's, we can replace the beds, maybe make them better, but I would hesitate to change the floor plan of the original cottage. Yes, I can understand the clinic and the waiting room needing attention, so that they're safer and easier to sanitize.
We appreciate that. We appreciate that there's no unanimity on that, but we may find that enlarging the waiting room is required or expected of us. Anyway, nothing is in the works at the moment, other than the preparation of a scale floor plan, which we should have for all of our municipal buildings, by the way, so that we've got something to talk about.
I think in future we'll have a more detailed discussion. I have some concerns about the viability of the doctors coming to Victoria Beach. Current people have been there doing it on a regular basis, and it's much appreciated. But if we're ever going to hope to continue to attract medical people, I think we need to take a look at possibility of improving the physical setup of the doctor's office. But it's at the end of the day, it's going to come down to dollars and cents, and at this point we don't have any idea what that might be. We thought it appropriate to, if we're going to talk about enlarging the size of the waiting room, which will likely be mandated, it might make sense to take a look at some other changes at the same time. But again, no decisions have been made on that. Just discussions.
Thank you very much. Good discussions.
I'm not sure if you just mentioned this now, because you cut out for just a half second, but if we're talking about expanding the doctor's office in any way, I think that it ended up maybe being cost prohibitive to say, well, let's just simply expand things. I think at that point we might want to take a look at redoing the entire cottage from scratch. But it's something that we should be looking into, and there are brand new construction methods which are substantially cheaper and could give us a longer life out of our doctor season. Something to consider for the future.
Yeah.
Just a comment on that, though. The cottage is...
As Erwin has explained, anything that we may choose to do or not do with the doctor's office is predicated on how much does it cost. And it's pretty hard to get even budgetary estimates without a plan to refer to. So that's where that sits. But there's many options available associated with that place. So we're just trying to put a number on some of them for council's overall consideration.
Erwin?
You know, the cottage fits in very well with the community in terms of its characters. I'd hate to see that cottage be destroyed and replaced with something modern and it may be more efficient, but I think we want to try and preserve what we have there in terms of the historic value and the aesthetics.
Yeah, there's a value to that.
Well, it's kind of a health equivalent of the Moonlight Inn. It's primary heritage, like it or not. What can we do to keep it viable?
Correct. All right, on that note, thank you very much. Communications? Mike, Steve?
Nothing huge with COVID. We're still waiting on AllNet to present,
Right.
to deliver our latest and greatest new website.
It'll get there.
But we are taking advantage of, I'm trying to take advantage of the RM of Victoria Beach Facebook page as much as possible. And we all urge everyone to get connected with VB Connect. If you haven't done so already, if you need more information, call the RM office. They'll give you all the details. Or you can email any member of council. We'll be happy to provide you with the details and the benefits of signing up for VB Connect.
Okay.
Just as an aside, AllNet received a sizable grant from the province to hire more staff, so that may speed up the process.
Good. Sorry, Steve?
Yeah, I just had three points. The first, just going on the Connect system, I just want to clarify that for people right now, if there's an emergency, we can contact you immediately by text, phone, and email. So then that way we can tell you exactly what to do. Later on, when we get a little bit more fine-tuned, we're going to be able to isolate your position and tell you what to do in that location. So that should be coming up fairly soon, as I said, once we get absolutely everything set up. The next thing I want to just put out a reminder that if you do want to have delegation to council, you can still do that. It's not that you can't do that. It's just it would be over the web the way that we're doing right now. And the final thing that I wanted to bring up, just on communications, just to clarify a couple of things. It's generally related only because we mention it all the time in our heralds. It's just with COVID and the masks. I've been seeing a lot of people right now wearing masks like this. That doesn't do anything. It has to be over the nose, and everybody in the group. If there's one person in that group, if you're a household and you all go out and all your children are wearing masks, but that'll turn, you still have the opportunity to spread that to your children afterwards. So everybody needs to wear the masks if you choose to do that. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Council Corner, who's got the pen this week?
Steve.
Steve? Okay, so get Steve your ideas sooner rather than later?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Information office, things seem to be going well at the information office. The ladies are able to contact Raymond or myself if there are issues. There have been a couple that we hope will be dealt with, but I think they're working out well, and it was great to have the support of Andy Bohm the first couple or 3 weekends. When people were coming in, he was directing traffic and helping the ladies at the front out a little bit as well. So I think all is good. Building inspector. Who's up on the building inspector? Graham? Do you have the building inspector
Mr.
report,
Graham?
Or do we?
Yes, I have the building inspector's report. Thank you to Curtis. His report is, of course, for the month preceding the month of July. Buildings permit issued: 3 decks, 1 main dwelling, 1 addition, 1 level, 1 shed, 1 demolition, and 1 permit renewal. Total value of permits $192,500. Permit fees collected $2,975. Thank you for that, Chris.
Graham, are the new rates in place now?
They would be.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Once you pass the bylaw.
Yes, I believe they are. Yeah, they are.
I know Curtis only generally works a couple days a week, but I've seen him up at the market on one Saturday, and I've
he's
spoken
around.
to him on Fridays. He's not just here 2 days a week. He's
No, more often than not, he's here 3 or 4
You're
days.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
He puts in more time than that, and as we all know, he makes a valuable contribution when we're dealing with zoning and other related issues. He's here Mondays and Tuesdays, and whenever he needs to be.
Yeah.
And his response to calls is exemplary.
Right. All right, thank you very much. Accessibility, all I can say is Graham's working on the doors, so thank you for that. Otherwise, I don't have anything to report.
Just for everyone's information, I'm keeping Ron Bowman advised of accessibility issues as they pertain to our municipal building work that's being done, has been done, or is in progress, just for just to keep him advised, and he's pretty happy with our attempts so far, knowing that we still have a long ways to go.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he is. Thank you very much. All right, Heritage Trails, Steve?
Oh, speaker.
So with Heritage, we've had a couple of submissions for the volunteer awards. Just a reminder that they do close out on September 1st. So again, there's no, when everything was written up, it was intentionally written so that it does not have to be for this year. So if somebody in the past has done a fantastic job with volunteering in the community, you can absolutely nominate that person, even if, again, they're not active this year. And I do have a couple of meetings coming up, which I am looking forward to for the Heritage Committee, involving different books that have been written about Victoria Beach and are no longer in print. And I think that 1 or 2 of them are like a one and only copy. So I'll be able to see those in the next little while. In terms of trails, I don't really have anything too much to report. I would say that we might want to take a look in the future of some way to be a little bit, to clean up the trail system a little bit more. I was on there about a week ago, and I walked directly into a nice field of poison ivy. So I'm really happy to have my shoes on, because God knows I've had it too many times. So it's just something that we might want to take a look at in the future, but there's not too much to report on trails.
I would like to point out on trails, hang on there, Graham, sorry. 2 people were observed driving from the parking lot onto the trail, the recycling trail.
Oh, shoot.
And they drove down the recycling trail to get to recycling in a van and a car.
Oh my God!
Now,
No! There's my report. No!
So maybe when we get our squeeze gates or our swing gates, that might be a good spot for them. But
Yeah.
someone did see them at the recycling end, one of our employees, and explained to them that that was not a vehicle path, that's the highway. But it is wide enough, unfortunately, right now for a vehicle, but it's a lovely path, but not for vehicles, people, so please, vehicles stay on the highway.
Yeah, and something else, just for trails, Steve, I've had a number of residents mention the deadfall from a lot of trails, like the trail from the parking lot to the golf course. It's like whatever was cut to make that trail seems it was just dropped and left. And it's going to take a concerted effort, maybe a hey everybody, let's all pitch in and clean up our trails. But we're going to need to coordinate something to start picking up some of the deadfall that's along our trails.
That's close to the
I
trail.
was going to put out a call out of the next. I was looking for more towards the last bit of next month to get some people to volunteer to come in. I know that the last time that I sort of put that out there, I had quite a few people who were ready to go in, but the summertime's not necessarily the time for that yet.
It's a full-
until we have everything really coordinated down so that we can have a coordinated group of volunteers so we know where everybody is at all times. But definitely in the fall, that's really going to be the strategy moving forward. And also further than that, next year, just to put it out now since you brought it up, I really would like to get that investment into that machine that Brad was referring to, which would allow us to go into areas where there's dangers of dead trees, that we can chip them up right then and there. So that way we'd be able to access the trail system, clean it up appropriately so you don't have that deadfall anymore, and also have some fire prevention. But absolutely, that is going to be on the docket for a little bit later on. I just don't want to put it out quite yet.
Okay, good, thanks.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Graham, anything?
Just a brief comment. I received a suggestion that the grass growth on the VB to AV trail was interfering to some extent with bicycle traffic. I passed that on without comment to Raymond. Is anything being looked at as far as mowing the grass on that trail?
It could use a good mowing.
Yeah,
Just something to
yeah.
put on
Yeah.
Public Works list,
Yeah.
things to do.
I've walked that trail last week, and it's quite accessible. And there's a number of bicycles, being operating on there.
Well,
So
it speaks well to the integrity of that trail that there's root growth. Good for us.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, now I've got to get back to my resolutions. All right, be it resolved that the July committee reports be accepted as presented. May I have a mover? Graham, thank you, and a seconder. Irwin, thank you. Any further discussion on reports? All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Moving on to accounts and finances, be it resolved that the following list of accounts be approved for payment. Accounts payable checks 8520 to 8560 in the amount of $124,154.29, and July 10th payroll in the amount of $61,237.30. Moved by Irwin, seconded by Mike. Thank you very much. Discussion, Irwin.
Again, I've reviewed the list of accounts payable. A couple of notable items. We're paying our accounting fees for the year, $10,500. Our dust control has now been completed, and $34,650 was paid out for that. And those are the only two, sizable items. The rest appear to be all in order.
Any discussion? No? All right, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. Thank you, Irwin. No business arising, so we'll move on to other business. Bylaw 1609, regulating the use of public property. This is an amended bylaw, and we're giving first reading, so may I read the resolution. Be it resolved that bylaw 1609, regulating the use of public property in the municipality, be given first reading. May I have a mover? Mike? Steve, will you second? Thank you. And discussion. We all had an opportunity to read this bylaw in our council package. There was a highlighted portion that was being added in regard to barbecues and other conveyances of that sort on municipal property. Did you want to add something, Mike?
It's just that we already exempt propane fire tables, fire pits from our fire bylaws. Propane barbecues are being made more and more portable in this day and age. There are no charcoals, there are no embers, there's no residue left behind after a propane fueled barbecue is used. Therefore, I would like to see propane barbecues exempted from this bylaw. Basically, anything that requires a briquette, charcoal, lava rock, what have you, something that has to hold the heat after ignition. I'm fine with that because the risk of people just dumping hot embers onto the sand, waiting for someone to walk on them, is very real. But something like a propane-powered barbecue, it's portable enough. I think it's safe enough that that a family decides decides they want to have hot dogs on the beach one day. I think it's reasonable to allow.
What about how hot the propane,
Mike?
it does get hot.
So you're proposing that we delete item 7?
Well,
The bylaw's the same.
Well, not delete, but amend it. And we would have to come up with the right wording between now and second reading. That is, unless everybody tells me to go fly a kite.
my concern is we have an ongoing problem with garbage on the beach already. We don't have the resources to clean it up. People are dumping their garbage wherever they feel. To allow cooking on the beach or in any public space, I think is just going to further aggravate that situation.
I don't see where it would exacerbate it. As a matter of fact, there may be even for people that are going to prepare food on the beach, there may be less wrapping and other waste than everybody having their individually wrapped sandwiches and desserts and whatnot. I mean, it's a fair point. I don't think it would exacerbate the problem.
Graham, you wanted to jump in?
I think Mike's already addressed it in suggesting that it would be a revision to the wording of Article 7 rather than ban the mother right. It's too common a practice to turn back the pages on that.
We're not talking about private property. We're talking
This is
about
public property.
public property.
Yeah, public property. Yeah,
And
yeah.
there have been some complaints recently that people are having barbecues and picnics on public land, be it maybe Randall Park or the Village Green or one of the beaches, and they're not all propane.
No, obviously not.
And there's a very real risk of fire, plus the mess that is sometimes, not always, sometimes left behind. So, you have to get a permit for a fire pit, for instance, or anything like that on your own property, but we're going to allow the public or somebody to have a barbecue on the beach or in a public park? I don't
Well, we don't require a permit for a propane fire pit.
Right, but are people really going to
that's
be
on private
carrying?
property.
That's private property as well.
True enough. All
Yeah.
right. Yes.
But are we going to be seeing people carrying 20-pound propane tanks down to the,
No, you don't use a 20-pound propane
Oh, okay,
tank. with
okay,
a-
that was my next
You use a
question.
1-pound tank.
you can buy
So like a
one?
sign-
Oh, yes, you buy the 1-pound bottles.
Unfortunately, we do not have the necessary infrastructure in terms of washrooms,
Picnics, tables?
picnic areas, and I just can't help but say that, unless we have proper support structures, we shouldn't be encouraging more picnicking on the beach, especially in a sandwich, an apple, a bottle of pop is one thing, but another thing is to actually sort of set up shop and start cooking for 20 people. I think that could be a challenge.
Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I see both sides of the argument, but just thinking about when I was younger, it was very rare that you'd ever have somebody actually cooking on the beach. I mean, I can think of maybe 5 times that's I've ever been to a fire people are actually cooking on the beach. So I don't see it necessarily being an issue there. Where I do see it being an issue is, as everyone pointed out, on the in the parks area. However, I would also note that most of those issues are coming from day trippers. And I don't necessarily have a problem with day trippers because they bring more money to the local businesses, but I mean, the problem that we have is that they're not going to be setting up a wood burning fire. Chances are they're going to be doing propane fire, which means that are we really going to get our police to walk in there and start handing out ticket after ticket after ticket after ticket to everybody who's sitting there, cooking their fish or whatever? I think I'm more with Mike on this one. I don't see it being as big of a problem as it could otherwise be. And in terms of the park situation, I mean, I think that we need to sort of step up and maybe set up, better garbage system, not to try to encourage people to come over and use the area, but just, there could be some proper disposal if people decide that they want to choose to set up on those parks, because we know which ones they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so where are we at then with number 7? The problem, this arose because the police don't have any, it was unclear.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak to it, Ray?
Yeah, the police feel that it's not clear in the existing, either this existing bylaw or the fire bylaw. The fire prevention, I don't think it's called fire prevention, open fires bylaw. That they could issue a tag for somebody that's got a barbecue going. I think the one thing that I haven't heard from the council members in discussing this, you gotta keep in mind who are you wanting to represent here. Your taxpayers, as a rule, your property owners, aren't gonna be barbecuing on public land specifically. So how much do you need to allow, say, day trippers to be bringing in barbecues to barbecue? We've heard a few complaints, I certainly have, from property owners saying, well, there's a bunch of people and they're barbecuing on, at the ball field behind the Moonlight Inn, as an example. So is that what council wants to allow within its jurisdiction, within the municipal jurisdiction? I think that's more the question. It wasn't so much a question of fire. It was a question of, do you want to allow this type of activity on public land, knowing you don't allow camping, you don't encourage tourism, it's not like
That's
some of
right,
the other
we don't
municipalities.
encourage tourism. So what's the difference between setting up a propane barbecue or just knocking the wrappers off your sandwiches and taking a shot at the garbage bin? And if you have 10, 12 people with 10, 12 wrappers from 10 or 12 different sandwiches, well, think about a barbecue. It's typically one wrapper from the pack of weenies and one bag from the pack of buns.
Well, again, it's council, it's up to council what you want to do with it. I'm just saying that.
I'm
I don't see it as a fire issue.
saying that I don't think it will exacerbate the garbage problem, and I think it's a lot safer. It gives residents an opportunity to spend an entire day on the beach. And it's a far less danger than allowing something that uses briquettes, bricks, or lava rocks.
I think you'll find, though, it's not residents.
Right.
Well, I can't see, I don't think there's gonna be, I don't think people are gonna be running out to buy propane barbecues because they hear that you can now use a propane barbecue on the beach either.
No, but no.
What I'm saying is that I wouldn't wanna throw the baby out with the bathwater. If someone enjoys spending entire days on the beach and the kids would love a hot dog or a burger or what have you, here's the safe way to do it.
The basic question is, do we want to allow people to cook in public places or on the beach? And I think the answer to that question is no. That's my opinion.
That is my feeling as well, but we do have a restaurant, we have a bakery, we have a store.
We don't have the infrastructure to properly support these people. So let's not encourage
As I said,
a process that we can't.
using a
properly
propane barbecue is not gonna bring more people to Victoria Beach, sorry.
Go ahead, Steve.
We could isolate the locations where we know that, this is typically happening, like down by the pier, like over on Randall Park. I think maybe we should talk about it a little bit more, but I think that if we come up with maybe at least one or two locations where it is okay, then what you do is you satisfy the people who want to be down at the beach all day, but they can go over to and cook in a location where there's the facilities are properly set up with the proper garbage cans and recycling bins. And then at the same time, we already know that the day trippers are going to continue to cook there anyway. So rather than saying, well, you have nowhere that you can cook, so they're just going to cook wherever they want, say that, well, you can go down to this location over there, and then that way you don't have people setting up behind the Moonlight Inn or anywhere. You know exactly where they are. And so it's easier to enforce, and then you're also localizing it rather than having it be a free-for-all. Because if you don't allow it, people are going to cook where they want.
Mhm.
Okay,
That's a good point.
I have no problem with restricting the activities of day trippers if it's to the benefit of residents.
Yeah, and I think that was a valid point. I think this is for, the residents pay the taxes, the residents pay for the pickup, the residents pay for the garbage, the residents pay for the services. So, you know, we don't encourage tourism, we don't turn people away. I don't want to be turning people away.
No, of course not.
But by the same token, do we want it to be like Assiniboine Park or like Grand Beach? I don't believe we do, and I don't believe our residents do. So Steve might have a good alternative there. Localize it. But I think garbage bins are a big part of it. Bear-resistant garbage bins in strategic locations.
We
as
have
well.
much more pressing problems than building a picnic area for
Yeah.
non-residents.
Yeah.
You know, I think we have to be mindful of the fact that there's some significant challenges that we need to address, and I certainly would not be in favor of putting any funds to establish a non-residents picnic area.
Yeah, where is that gonna
Where's it gonna be?
be? Where's that gonna be exactly?
I'm completely against setting up a picnic area. I'm just simply saying, like, don't build all the benches and everything else. I'm just simply saying, localize it to that one location. If they bring everything they want, then fine, they bring what they want. But just localize the use of a propane fireplace to that one spot.
I just don't know how you're gonna enforce it.
But if this is an activity that we don't want to encourage, then the amendment to this bylaw seeks to give our police the authority to deal with it.
It does.
Exactly. That's the whole
Yeah.
point.
I was just at a meeting on this topic yesterday with the Eastern Regional Municipal Committee in Whitemouth. And many of the areas around there, Pinawa, Reynolds, they have abandoned gravel pits, and they're finding people are camping in the gravel pits. There are no services, there are no facilities. They're leaving messes behind. Pinawa's having trouble. It was in the news today with 100 or 1,500 people showing up on a weekend to go tubing. They simply don't have the infrastructure. They love the tourism, but they simply don't have the infrastructure to cope. They're implementing a $20
Yeah.
parking fee to get people off the highway. There's been one death in the Arm of Alexander. There's been that was a drowning off of one of the dams, I believe. There was a death in the Arm of Reynolds, a 50-year-old woman on an ATV. So there's issues, and I think this year maybe is a different year because people are traveling close to home.
Mhm.
They want to get out of the city. These places are nearby. Victoria Beach is nearby. Talked to Kevin at the parking lot. He's seeing a lot more people come in to enjoy the day, which is great. And when they get there, they realize we don't have the services to accommodate.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we want to be in the business of providing those services when Grand Beach is just down the road, but we do want to welcome you, but
We got nothing for you.
we don't have anything for you, and in terms of parks services. So this amendment to the bylaw, in my view, will allow us to control and allow the police to have some control over, you know, barbecues or
Yeah,
other
I
cooking
understand
issues
that.
that could cause a problem.
And to emphasize, we're talking about beaches and public
There is,
property.
sorry, go ahead, Erwin.
Just to reemphasize, we're talking about restricting the operation of cooking devices on the beach and/or public property. We're not talking about private property.
No.
Right.
Right. If there is a complaint, a legitimate complaint, presumably from a resident, hopefully from, how do we explain to our taxpayers that we were not willing to empower our police to deal with it?
Yeah. So this is first reading. So if there are any changes, now is the time to make those changes, have that discussion. So how are we feeling right now with number 7 after this discussion?
I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it.
I really think that just Mike brings up a good point on something I didn't consider previously. So I'm fine with it, provided that one area is left so that day trippers can use that area, because then you localize their use of the RM, because they're going to use the RM as they want. But if they know that there's a place that they can go where they won't be fined, they'll go there, and then we can isolate all the issues that we
Can't use as they want.
But how do we do that, Steve, if people park at Pitt Road and want to go down Irwin's Path?
Mhm.
Do we tell them, no, you can't, you have to go to
Sandy Bay.
Sandy Bay or
Grand Beach.
You know, I certainly see the value, but I think even in our tiny little municipality, I don't know how you would direct someone and make them go somewhere else. They're going to not be very polite about it.
Yeah.
To be clear, and I'm not against,
I appreciate, I'm sorry.
to
Go
be
ahead.
clear,
I appreciate my point of view. But as with any of these bylaws resolutions, it relies heavily on the discretion of our police as to the level and aggressiveness of enforcement. I think they can be trusted to handle this responsibly.
If we change the word just a little bit, if we say the use of non-propane fueled barbecues and any other cooking apparatus, I'm happy as a clam.
You're still inviting people
No,
to
we're
do.
not inviting anybody. This is for the benefit of residents, because as I said, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Portable barbecues have been popular for years.
Police will still have the discretion, as always, to enforce the bylaw,
right.
even though that clause is in there. They can
Mike,
choose how they enforce it and when they
Do
enforce
you
it.
really think there's a demand by our residents to be able to cook on the beach? I've seen no evidence of that.
I'm not purporting that there is a demand, but I don't want to take away the ability for them to do so.
If you have it on the beach, from my
If there
experience,
is a complaint, they have to be able to act.
Yeah.
from my experience, if you have it on the beach, people, I'm gonna use Sunset, it's not just Sunset, there's beachfront all around the peninsula. People that have lakefront property will complain. So where are you gonna allow people to do it? If you have it in what we'll call the parks areas, people that are adjacent or in that neck of the woods, like this person who complained about cooking at the ball field, are gonna complain. So where is the right spot, if there was one, to put this? And who are you catering to? Who are you wanting to cater to?
You're not catering to the residents in this case.
If we're going to allow cooking, then we have to provide a much higher level of infrastructure to support people, and I don't think that's what we want to do. You know, I'm not opposed to,
I don't agree that there's a higher level of infrastructure
I don't
required.
think no, if you put in additional infrastructure beyond garbages and recycling bins, then absolutely you're encouraging more day trippers. If you just simply isolate one location where people can use it, that's fine. Or Mike's suggestion, then you're really changing nothing. You're just making it so that it's not illegal all over the RM.
Is all I'm saying.
Okay, well, I just wanted to sort of wrap this up so that Raymond knows what he's supposed to be saying on number 7. Right now,
Well,
it's,
I mean, we have another 2 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks to discuss
Some
this,
feedback.
right? Like,
We'll come to some
we're-
consensus. We'll come to some
You can leave it
consensus.
the way it is now, and then you
Yeah.
can amend that on second reading.
okay,
call for the vote.
Yeah, let's pass this. and,
Yeah,
we
Okay,
can
so-
think more about changing the wording, you know.
Mhm.
okay, so can we agree to pass it for first reading
Yes,
and
absolutely.
then amend?
Yeah, can't do anything with
Did
it
I
if we
do
don't.
that? I think I just did that backwards
Did you
too.
call for a vote by
We had the
the-
no,
You
didn't.
don't, you have
call for
Mike
discussion.
and,
All right.
Mike and Steve.
All right, great, okay, so, it was a good discussion, thank you. So all those in favor of passing first reading? Graham is at hand, there it is.
Yeah.
All right, all carried. Thank you very much.
Good discussion.
Yeah, it was a good discussion. Thank you very much for that. Okay, now we are moving on to the memorandum of understanding, use of volunteer equipment and vehicles. Be it resolved, the Arm of Victoria Beach Council approved the format and contents of the template memorandum of understanding outlining the terms and conditions regarding the use of volunteers, personal equipment and vehicles in an emergency situation. May I have a mover? Mike, thank you. Erwin, second. Thank you. All right, again, we've had this, this MOU has been circulated to council for your review. Any discussion? I know one of the things that we haven't touched on is the rates. That seems to be the biggest one.
It's in the last one.
Is it in the last one?
It's in Appendix A, yeah.
Okay.
And for myself, Raymond, this couldn't have been an easy document to put together. And my compliments, I've got no problem with the rates whatsoever. I think they're reasonable, and they're consistent, and nice job.
It was in consultation with Brad, actually, he came up with the numbers,
Okay.
suggested numbers.
Good.
Well, for clarity though, the fire chief has to request the equipment. You can't just show up.
Show up with a
Absolutely
snowmobile.
not.
That's right.
And each individual, he will select the individuals that he's comfortable with entering into this MOU.
Right.
And so that's the way it'll work.
Perfect. No, I
That's
like
why
it.
there's a blank space. for
It only
that.
seems reasonable that we compensate people when
Hopefully
the
it's
equipment
personal
needs to be
equipment.
commandeered.
And you're,
Graham?
you're satisfied that we're covered on the process for applying for reimbursement?
I am.
Yeah, I mean, no one can even apply for reimbursement if they have not been given authority by the chief, the fire chief, to use their equipment, their own personal equipment, while attending a fire or emergency.
Right.
Steve?
That works for me.
Okay. Steve, any comments?
No, I think everything is pretty straightforward, and I'm generally happy with rates. Of course, you know, a little bit less would be nice, but they deserve it. I think what's just important for the ratepayers to understand is that this basically helps the emergency volunteers to get to the emergency that they need to get to faster, because they can use their vehicles rather than having to try to find some other way to get there to maybe be compensated for it. But I mean, this is
The municipality does not own any snowmobiles or any
Exactly.
ATVs. so
Or
we-
ATVs, or boats per
And,
se.
we have a boat.
you know,
Well, okay, we have a
the
boat.
possible alternative is for the RM to spend tens of thousands
That's
of
right.
dollars on standby machinery.
Right.
This is good for the taxpayer, I believe.
Good, simple
Absolutely.
solution.
Yep.
Good job, Raymond. All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? Graham, I can't, there you go. Carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to the Hughes Agreement, planning matter, resolution. Let me go back to my resolutions. Going back and forth here. Be it resolved that the Arm of Victoria Beach Council approve the agreement between Sean Hughes and the municipality dated July 21st, 2020. Further be it resolved that the REIT and the CAO be authorized to sign said agreement. May I have a mover and a seconder?
Erwin?
I've got Erwin as moving, Graham seconding. Thank you. All right, discussion.
Was there a need for the standard rezoning easement application?
There's
Was
no
there-
variance requirement.
That was,
That's the
no
question.
variances here. Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
Yeah.
Everything else is fine.
Okay, any other discussion, questions? No? Erwin?
We just put a condition on the issue of the overhang will not be enclosed.
That's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah,
And the fence is not permanent.
yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
fence is temporary.
Yeah, okay, I'm good.
Okay, anything else?
I'm just not generally happy with the whole situation
Yeah.
from the get-go before this council. So it's just, I mean, this is the best thing for the community in the short run, and as long as it's not going to be there for more than 2 years, then All right, sure.
All right, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Okay, carried.
Brilliant.
What was that? I don't know if I won.
Steve, I like your overwhelming support of the idea.
Yeah, make those check mark in pencil.
All right, moving on to civic signage on municipal property. Whereas vehicles are parking on the west side,
No,
oh, pardon me, I
that's-
missed one.
No, that isn't actually Penny, that, those are add-ons.
Those
The
are the add-ons,
resolution you're at
okay.
is an add-on.
Right, okay. Thank
This
you,
is
you're right.
another matter, if you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I did want to bring it up. Civic signage on municipal property, there's been a lot of back and forth with council and some residents on improving the signage in the municipality. It sort of started in Wanasing, and I think it's made us realize we need to have a review of the signage in the municipality, make sure our signs are consistent. There was an issue in Albert Beach with signage, so and then there was some back and forth this week, I noticed, in terms of
Speed signs.
speed signs, E. coli signs, children crossing signs, flashing signs. So I just thought it would be better to have the discussion out in the open so that community knows what we're talking about, and I can get your opinion rather than going back by email and getting six or seven different responses. So one of the issues was E. coli, and the province does have signage that they put up on the beaches if they've tested your beach. That's a provincial responsibility. We can certainly help them put the signs up,
I think we do, actually.
and we do. But they provide the signage and they tell us
Yeah, that's
which,
a red and white sign they put up.
I think so.
That actually-
which beaches are affected. And I don't see the need for us to have bigger signage.
It's not our entity.
It's not our entity. The other one was children crossing. Steve, I think you brought this up, Safi Road, someone did. And
Brandon did.
okay, Graham,
actually.
sorry. Safi, and something about the social scene and Victoria Beach Community
Yeah.
Club intersection.
Yeah, those two are mine. It's just
Okay.
that there's so much traffic going back and forth, and even with the new 1919 trail, or the refurbished one anyway, there's still a lot of crossing between the community center and Safi's. Or sorry, not Safi's, the social scene.
Yeah.
So that's in the winter, that's in summer. So just some sort of crossing sign there with flashing lights would be, I think, appropriate. The same thing over on Safi Road, where you have that major crossing, although that would obviously require some discussions with RM of Alexander.
Yeah, with the skate park and with the proposed playground at the community center coming up, even more so, at least caution children playing signage, I think is very important.
But don't forget, that's provincial highway.
That's a highway.
That's a highway, and they've
Yeah,
got
and
like,
we would have to talk to
we'd have
infrastructure
to talk to
about it,
highways about that.
And
Yeah.
we install them. They
Yeah.
won't let you install them.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
As a general comment about,
The biggest thing with the signage is that we really need to get away from long-winded sentences or paragraphs, like, you know, we'll have like a sign that should just be a dog with a cross going through it, and instead we have like, no dogs allowed for X, Y, Z reason, and getting into the whole bylaw mess. It's like, geez, just like have the image there. So
Yeah.
having the universal signage is really important because it makes it cleaner, and people can just simply look up and they know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That I think is something that we really need to focus on the for signage anyway.
Go ahead, Graham.
My input on this was, thank you. My input on this, as you know, was a somewhat narrower scroll. The 20-kilometer signs, their standard approved format, and also a proposed proof of children crossing signs, which Raymond has a copy of. On those few issues, I think we're at asking Raymond to proceed to obtain the signage and arrange for installation.
I just wanted to have the discussion. You know, we have to be careful on 59 and 504, those are highways. We can ask highways to place signage, but we have no right to place signage.
That's correct.
So we have to be careful about that. I think Mike has sent in a map, we've got Steve's map, we've got my outline, we've got Irwin's concerns, we've got Graham's concerns. I think it's just a matter of deciding.
Put them all together.
Put them all together, decide which signage is needed.
Yeah.
If we need some international signage with it, which does make sense, as much as possible.
One of the problems with the idea of having a dog and an X through it is that's inconsistent with the current bylaw.
Yeah.
Because the bylaw says you
Between
can.
the
you
hours
can-
of-
That's right.
So, I think it's important that the signage be kept as simple.
As simple as
and as
possible.
big
Yeah.
as possible.
Yes.
As big but not overwhelming.
Of course
We don't,
not.
you know.
I'm not talking about a 4x8 sign, you know,
Yeah.
but,
I
you
mean,
know, we tended to put too much text into a small sign area, so that people were just ignoring them.
Well, people tend to ignore signs anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Well, but at least we can say that there is a sign, and that's a
For
bylaw.
example, at Albert Beach, invites being ignored.
What was that?
I missed that, Graham.
Irwin's example at Albert Beach, where the problem is, first of all, the size of the sign. That sign invites being ignored.
Yes.
Well, but those
And
signs.
it is being ignored.
Those signs are in the vehicle restricted area at every beach
Yeah,
access
yeah.
as well. They were ordered several years ago.
Bigger issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the basic difference
Less
between
is more.
Albert Beach and the VRA is people inside the VRA know the rules. Albert Beach, we have had a huge increase in
Day trippers.
day trippers because of Alexander's parking lot.
Yeah.
And
So
they
they're
bring their
uneducated.
dog, and they bring their dog with them
Yeah.
from wherever they're coming from. And
Yeah.
when they can't leave them in the car.
Nope.
So they bring them onto the beach and more issues ensue.
And again this week,
Where do we go from here? A proposed shopping list of signs that we will ask Raymond in due course to proceed with.
We've already got,
Generally.
we've already got several 20K signs in stock that I ordered a while back, and I spoke to Trevor about installing those. I'll check with him about the children crossing signs. We probably don't. I'll get those ordered. I'll determine how many we
Great,
need
thank you.
there.
can we get a few more no parking and no stopping signs?
We may have some of those.
I would
I'll
think
have to
so.
check. I'll have to check on those.
I feel like after a while, we just need a big no sign.
I know. I think, Steve,
Not describing anything else, just no.
yeah,
Right through the welcome sign.
no. Yeah, I think,
No happiness, no freedom, no rights.
no, I think it should say no fun.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, this is Victoria Beach, fun is not allowed.
Hey, now.
Hey, we have a lot of,
Holy
We have a lot of
mackerel.
fun. We have a lot of fun,
You
but we need to be respectful.
Response to that resolution.
Yeah.
I think really what we need to do is take just a complete formal inventory. The inventory that I took previously
That was
with
traffic.
recommendations and everything else, that's strictly speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that we need like a full inventory of like all the signs that we have so that we can understand exactly the issue that we have at hand, because there
Yeah.
are so many signs around, and
I
some of them
know.
are useful and they're just redundant.
So, I guess that's working with Public Works as well, and working with Raymond. So, I'm happy to do that, but I am getting comments that there's an awful lot of signage in our
We
municipality.
need a new sign, that says, please read the signs.
I think we need to have that song just on auto replay, signs,
Everywhere
signs, blocking up the scenery.
We need better signs.
Yes.
Simpler,
I don't think,
consistent.
I don't think we're licensed for singing.
Oh, darn. Well, I don't know, you guys were in the musical.
Yeah.
You know, some of you.
And no dancing either.
Okay, so we will move forward on this. I'll work with Raymond and Trevor
Yeah.
and council, and we'll make sure that we improve our signage over time and get an inventory and figure out what we need. I just wanted to have the discussion, so thank you for that.
You got it. You got it.
All right, moving on, I think, to the next resolution.
More sign.
No parking.
No,
No parking sign.
there you go. This one is David Road. Whereas vehicles are parking on the west side of PTH 59, immediately north of the David Road intersection. And whereas parked vehicles in that area are causing significant visibility issues for motorists attempting to turn onto PTH 59 from David Road, and also creating a safety hazard for motorists merging onto 59 from the 59-504 intersection. And whereas the PTH 59 David Road intersection is situated close to a curve in the highway, resulting in reduced visibility of oncoming traffic and increasing the risk to public safety as beachgoers are crossing PTH 59 from their parked vehicles to access the beach on the east side of PTH 59 and to then return to their parked vehicles. Therefore be it resolved that the RM of Victoria Beach Council submit a request to Manitoba Infrastructure and Transportation to install no parking signage on the west side of PTH 59 north of David Road to improve public safety in that area. May I have a mover?
Yes.
Can you
Mike?
repeat that, please?
Mike moves it. Do I have a seconder? Graham? Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And any discussion on this very self-explanatory bylaw,
Other than-
resolution?
We should look for ways to reduce the amount of wording in resolutions.
We walk the dinosaur in that area a lot, and to be able to walk there without having to play dodging with the cars, I think it's great.
Well, currently, we don't allow any parking on the west side of 59.
On the
essentially
causeway.
On the causeway,
Yeah.
north of Safi Road, probably all the way up to David Road or
All the
somewhere.
way up to David Road. What
Yeah.
they're just saying is continue that up to the
Yeah.
59 turnoff.
I
The
spoke
road that
with,
goes into Vic.
Yes.
Yeah,
I spoke with the traffic engineering department, and they won't do it without a it doesn't guarantee they'll do
It
it.
doesn't guarantee they'll
But
do
they
it or
will
anytime soon,
definitely,
but
they will definitely
Well, we
not
have
do
to
it.
ask.
So they'll still
Yes.
be able to
No.
park on the east side of 59.
Yes.
Mm,
there is
yeah.
some parking
some
on
parking
the
there.
east.
Yeah.
At least there, they're not crossing the highway.
I
Right,
think
I
I
agree.
agree
There.
that too personally, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not as
Yeah,
bad.
You can't do that, I
Yeah.
don't think.
Yeah, they're gonna allow some, right?
Yeah.
You can't shut them all out.
okay, let's start with the west side and see what
Good.
happens.
It'd be consistent then.
Yeah,
Because it-
And it is a safety issue because they're not going
Huge.
to a beach on the west side.
No,
They're
No.
going to
crossing the road.
Wanasing
they're
or
crossing a
they're
provincial
crossing a
highway.
provincial highway to get to a beach.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's a safety issue as well. So. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And the next one. Be it resolved that the RM of Victoria Beach Council authorize Councillor Axworthy to attend meetings of the Coalition to Save Lake Winnipeg. Further be it resolved that the municipality cover all costs, associated costs to attend said meetings as per the terms of bylaw 1603. I have a mover. Erwin? Seconder? Graham? Thank you. And Steve, this came up through a phone call with Dave Curry from the Coalition to Save Lake Winnipeg. He said he contacted you as well. Steve looks frozen. Doesn't he?
He's frozen.
Steve, you're frozen.
Oh, sorry.
No, he was just
You
asleep.
guys hear me now?
You're garbled. Try again.
Yeah, I went to the first meeting, which I think was just over a year ago, just because they invited me, and I figured it'd be something that I should just check out. But then they reached out the other day and wanted to sort of step things up, and heard that I was trying to get some movement on the lake issue. So yeah, no, I'm excited to go. So,
Good.
I think
Good.
that's-
Yeah, and this allows you to legitimately bill for the travel time and the meeting time too, which is important, you know, you should be reimbursed for some of this stuff. So this allows,
we currently reimburse you when you go to Red River Basin.
yeah, and the meeting I went to yesterday in Whitemouth, I'll be
Yep.
reimbursed for that.
Okay, so it's not inconsistent.
Nope,
Yeah.
not at all. No, not at all, and it's, no.
Good.
Okay. Call vote.
All right, all those in favor?
Happy trail,
Carried.
Steve.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you, Steve, for.
Thanks for doing that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, next up, Erwin had asked if we could discuss the library.
Earlier on in our budget, we had approved the expenditure of $2,400 to provide additional staffing for the library so that they could extend hours on Friday night. With COVID, obviously that has not happened, and the social scene is not allowing them to open on Friday currently.
Yeah.
So, but because of the challenges, we find that the library is falling way behind processing books, and the head librarian has asked if we might be allowed to still receive that money to cover off some of the extra staffing costs that they have. Thank you. Just a second.
How much?
Okay. So, sorry, I got interrupted here. So I'm looking for permission to pay the $2,400 or so, but not require that money be used for extra hours on Friday, because that's not going to happen. Unfortunately, the library's budget has been significantly impacted by COVID. None of the fundraising activities that they normally would have done were allowed, so, and I think, you know, the library's still doing a good job, and I'd like to have them be supported with the funds.
Do we need a resolution, or?
No, actually, I interrupted Erwin because I showed him the check. The check was drawn after the list of accounts was made, was done, so it
Okay.
wasn't in the list of accounts that Erwin reviewed, but the check's already been written up.
And what it is for?
2,300 and change, you know, whatever the number was.
Done deal, good.
Yeah,
We had committed,
we committed to it.
It's in our budget.
Yeah.
Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
You're all breaking up quite a bit there. How much money are they asking for?
They're not asking for any more than was budgeted for them. What they want to do is, instead of using it for additional staff to keep longer hours on Fridays, which due to COVID isn't a necessity, they find themselves in an administrative backlog, and they're asking council if they could use that money for a purpose other than additional staff on Friday night.
The money would be used to pay for staff to work in the library
Right.
when it's not open, to get caught up on the backlog.
Right. I'm cool.
How much money did we allot for them? It wasn't that much. That was like $500.
No,
No, 2,400, did you say?
The total budget is about $6,000.
Oh, 6, okay.
But it, you know, the large library is used by a fair number of
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I get monthly
So
stacks
that's
every.
what we gave to them this year? There's 2,600?
No. We gave them two allocations. One is a head, per head, based on our number of permanent residents, and that's about $4,800 roughly.
Somewhere in
And then we asked for and got another $2,400, which was initially intended to increase the hours of operation.
Yeah.
So, but with COVID, social scene is not allowing us to open other than a very limited basis. So they just need the money to get
It's just
To get caught up.
caught up.
Written
Yeah.
strings that would otherwise be attached to the check Raymond has in his hand, so
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Okay. All right. I'll just ask you to show me your support for this so that we can ensure, all right?
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. All right.
Scotch.
All right, any correspondence that members of council want to bring forward for discussion?
There had been concern raised by one of our constituents that Mr. Thompson was in fact doing something on his land. The suggestion was that he was hauling in additional fill, and there's also a sign on the more rigid gate saying that this is a construction project. I had discussions with Curtis, and he has verified that there is no building permit and there's no evidence of any construction going on. Mr. Thompson is well within his rights to bring in fill, should he wish to, because that's his private land.
Yeah.
So, just wanted to set aside any concerns about whether or not there's any building going on, and there's no evidence of that and no building permit in place.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Anybody else? No? All right. Guess what? Be it resolved that the July 21st, 2020 regular council meeting be adjourned. Our next regular council meeting will be held on August 4th at 1 p.m., 705 1661 Portage Avenue in Winnipeg. May I have a mover?
I think Steve has his hand up.
Steve. And a
Oh, that's
second.
guys, mine. Yeah.
Yeah, Erwin. And, all right. All those in favor? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of the day.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen.